Hey, welcome to Screenplay Junkie. My name's Drew Hellmich, and I'm a screenwriter. Film is a pretty sweet medium of art. However, before anything can make it to the big screen, it must start as a blueprint, text on paper. So if you're a fellow addict of film and storytelling, come join us as we take a look at various types of screenplays, short stories, and other source material that were crucial to the creation of the stories that we all love. I must warn you, though, there will be spoilers, so I do recommend being familiar with the title that's being discussed. Sound good? Cool. Then let's get started. Bryan, you're done, man. You come in here, you hang out with the stew for us for a day, and then you decide you want to go back and get on live.
I put my time in.
You decide you want to go back and get on air with your phone again. We got to resort back to that.
That makes more work for us.
Yeah, man. You know what? You're done. I'm going to hit the button. Your chair's going to retract. It's going to go down to the fiery depths beneath you, and you're toast, man.
Press the button. Do it. And just so you know, in case this doesn't work, we're about to hit the button. There's a large Asian man who's going to throw a shoe at you. He's standing outside your door.
Yes.
So just in case the chair doesn't work.
Yes, random task.
He's going to just throw a shoe at you. He's going to throw his shoe at you, and there will be a very large lump on your head for the next week.
What he's going to perform on you will not be a random task.
Oh, that really hurt. Oh, you asshole.
Who throws a shoe?
Honestly.
Welcome, fellow story addicts, to episode number 7 of Screenplay Junkie. I'm Drew Hellmich, your host. Alongside with me today, I have Matt and Bryan. And what are we looking at today, guys?
Today we are looking at Austin Powers, as Bryan almost just said.
Thank you.
International Man of Mystery.
You can't see me. I'm dancing now, but you can't see it.
You're dancing? You're chair dancing?
Yeah. I'm chair dancing. Oh, it's so true. I forgot the classic score they have for that movie.
Dude, when was the last time you saw that?
Dude, I wish I was able to sit down and watch it or record it, but I'd say a couple of years.
Really?
Maybe randomly on TV.
It's been years for you?
Oh my God.
I mean, for Man of Mystery, I probably saw Goldmember.
Goldmember? Oh, so you've seen the last one you saw was the third one?
Yeah.
So what's the least one you've ever seen? Probably the second one? The spy who shagged me.
They're all kind of the same movie.
Yeah,
in reality, they're all kind of the same movie.
Yeah.
Is the second one with the fat dude?
Heather Graham. Yeah, Fat Bastard.
Fat Bastard comes in the second one.
Yeah. Okay. Probably that one then. Most definitely.
Yeah, but today we're going to be talking about the first one, Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, which came out in 1997, I believe. The script that we're going to be looking at was written in. What's up? Oh, yeah, that's right. And the draft that we're looking at today was written May 24th, 1996, and it comes in at 95 pages.
Which is it makes sense now. I'm getting used to the page lengths when it compares to movie lengths too.
Right, and something I want to say right away is just like an interesting anecdote is that like the last big comedy we looked at, Superbad, right, was super similar screenplay to the movie. This one actually has some differences, and I think it's going to make it a really good episode because we have some interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so as usual, we're going to go over the IMDb stuff for this movie, first of all. As Drew said, it was released on May 2nd, 1997, as titled Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. The logline reads as follows. A 1960s secret agent is brought out of cryo-freeze to oppose his greatest enemy in the 1990s, where his social attitudes are glaringly out of place. And by those social attitudes, they mean his habit of just wanting to have sex every waking minute of every day.
Which is with anything that moves. Doesn't even matter what it is.
That's what he calls to shag.
Yes.
Yeah, baby, yeah. Mike Myers is the amazing Austin Powers and Dr. Evil.
Right.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Hurley is the beautiful Vanessa Kensington. Michael York plays Basil Exposition. Mimi Rogers plays Mrs. Kensington. Robert Wagner's number 2. Seth Green is Scott Evil. Fabiana Udenio is Alata Fagina. And then we have Mindy Sterling as Frau Farbissina. Paul Dillon as Patty O'Brien. Charles Napier as Commander Gilmore. And last but not least, Will Ferrell is Mustafa.
Mustafa?
Yeah. That was totally one of his early roles.
Right, so...
hence the beginning correlation at the beginning of the episode.
This movie was released PG-13. The budget for it was $17 million.
Right.
Opening weekend, it made almost $10 million, so that's pretty great. And then it's grossed 53.8 million, and then 67 million worldwide.
Damn.
Dope.
So it's pretty good, yeah. I mean,
pretty good turnaround.
based on like how popular these movies are, I kind of would have expected more of like a gross cumulative. But it's probably just because the movie's so readily available. Mike Myers is a good guy. He's not going to charge anybody too much these days for the rights, probably. Who knows? But either way, they made a lot of money, so that's great. Okay, next we're going to go over some trivia for this movie because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so the first one, I think it's like the first one that pops up. It says that originally when they were casting the role for Dr. Evil, Mike Myers wanted Jim Carrey to play as Dr. Evil.
Oh my!
Right, exactly.
But he couldn't do it because he was busy filming Liar Liar.
Liar Liar, yeah. Which I mean,
it's a good movie.
Trying to think of what that would have looked like and how Jim Carrey would have portrayed Dr. Evil. I think I would have liked him as Dr. Evil.
$1 million.
But Mike Myers does such a good job. But it's actually really interesting thinking about it. Mike Myers writing the character of Dr. Evil, not thinking that he was going to play Dr. Evil, that he was only going to be playing Austin Powers in this film. And he was actually thinking of somebody else to play Dr. Evil because when I compare like Austin Powers to other movies, I think of like The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy, The Nutty Professor with Jerry Lewis.
The same guy.
Like the same characters or the same guy playing different characters. That's kind of what I thought Mike Myers was doing with this movie, but it seems that's not what it was at all. So that's interesting.
I think it's awesome how he picked up the role, and it's interesting too because the fact that he decided to play both guys influenced how he wrote the rest of the films because like they ended up being brothers in Goldmember.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they were like separated at birth.
So who knows if that's what he had already thought of, writing this movie like in the back of his mind, or if it was just, hey, let's just throw this in there for just some dumb connection later on in our third movie here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I feel like him playing the role too just adds more comedic value because like Jim Carrey would have been really funny, but it's just like, oh, it's the same dude. Like that's pretty funny.
Definitely, if Jim Carrey was in the movie, like I would have embraced it.
What did this been post Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah. Dumb and Dumber was like 1993 or 1994 or something.
Oh, okay.
So Jim Carrey was like a superstar at this point of his career.
Gotcha.
This was
he would have done well.
It was pre Bruce Almighty though.
Oh yeah, totally.
Just moving on, I guess, with some more trivia here. Some interesting stuff is
Sounds
that
good.
Mike Myers actually revealed that this character, Austin Powers, he kind of created like based on stuff that happened in his own life. For instance, his dad loved watching old British comedies that like were kind of like James Bond type things where the main character was like this male, like untouchable, amazing investigator, like beating everybody up, boozing on the job, and just somehow getting everything done. So he wanted to like incorporate that, and then he also said one day he came home just from work or like I think it said hockey practice.
Yeah, it did say
which
hockey,
is like Mike Myers playing hockey. I can't imagine him on skates, but he came home and just started flirting with his wife in like a British accent, doing like the "yeah, baby, do I make you Randy, baby?"
Yeah,
and she loved it so much that she was like, "You need to write that down," and that's how like the character of Austin Powers,
the character came about. Yeah,
that's how it came about.
That's sweet. I love hearing stuff like that because it just gives you a perspective
awesome,
about how just like these really random and like almost trivial parts of your life could happen, and then they actually like spawn movie ideas. So it's just really cool how that stuff happens.
Yeah. So he like took that, like Drew just said, this like his own life experience, and he kind of combined it with the Bond films, right? Because that's what Austin Powers is. It's a spoof of James Bond. We all know that. And Dr. Evil's character is actually based on an old Bond villain who is called Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
Yeah.
Who's like a huge. He's like a huge.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, I know, right? He's a huge arch nemesis of Bond in the films and in the old books. And yeah, that's who Dr. Evil's based on. And the character in the Bond films is bald and has a cat. So it's like, and they like don't show his face.
Right.
In a lot of
Did they say
camera
which
shots.
one it is? Because I mean, I'm thinking of like Doctor No.
I think it's like Thunderball or like
Thunderball. I thought it was Doctor No, but it could be like a combination.
There's like 50
of
Bond
some
movies.
guys. Yeah.
There's so many.
And
Okay.
of course, it's another character they base it off in the movies. I forgot his name of James Bond, but just the top
Oh,
hat.
Odd Job.
Odd Job, yeah.
Odd Job, yeah.
And then
yeah.
in the movie, it's Random Task.
Right.
Right.
And and he throws his shoe in the movie and in the script, right? The guy throws his shoe.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Bond
Yeah,
films,
yeah.
he throws his hat.
Yeah.
His hat, yeah. Oh, man, classic.
Okay. So the part where Dr. Evil is shushing his son, Scott, that was improvised. So that just happened like on the spot in the movie. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Wow.
Something pretty interesting, like we all know that Elizabeth Hurley, the girl who plays Mrs. Kensington, Austin Powers' like co-star for this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's very beautiful.
She's aight.
She's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, she's
And she asked to like keep her costumes from the movie, like all those tight leather outfits she wears.
Oh, yeah?
Outfits she wears.
Yeah.
Yeah, she kept them. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
Was it just
Those on at
like
night.
was it just in her closet like collecting dust?
It's actually in my closet when first she comes over.
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
In my dreams. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so going back to like the character he developed, Austin Powers, like how his wife like influenced it, she actually suggested like the dancing, all like the goofy dancing.
Okay.
What, like the weird intermission.
Not like the
The dancing that comes to mind is just the fembot dancing. She really pushed for that scene. when he's like when he's like stripping for them.
he's shaking his booty all right, and then their heads explode because his mojo is just too much.
And that hair, that was actually all natural hair of Mike Myers.
No,
He actually gets that hair.
no.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
No
That'd
way.
be unbelievable.
Make love to me, you
Disgusting.
hairy little man. Okay, so Mike he modeled Austin Powers' hair and glasses after a young Professor Stephen Hawking.
What? That's really random.
Not going to fact check that one. We're not
That's
going to.
We'll just
really
take
random.
we'll just take that as a truth, and yeah, that's really random.
Really random. Wonder where he got his bad teeth from.
So, some more influence for this film is the fact that Mike Myers was on Saturday Night Live and did a sketch in which several of James Bond's nemesises complain about his like invulnerability, which means like he's like untouchable. They can't kill him.
Yeah.
So apparently, like
Okay.
they talk about like in the sketch like how easy it should be to kill Bond, and that was like how, I guess like another thing that made him like kind of want to stay on this topic or this theme.
Oh, that launched.
No, that makes sense. I mean, the
Yeah.
James Bond movies, like, just thinking about going back to like the Sean Connery ones, like if you were to just sit there and watch them, like they're good, but they're like goofy at the same time. But making like a parody, like capitalizing a parody on this is, I'm not gonna say easy, but like it's such a good like title just to like exploit because it's just so ridiculous of what what happens in these movies.
So the main theme for the movie that you hear in the opening, during the credits, it's a song that was actually released in the 60s by a guy named Quincy Jones, and the song's name is Soul Bossa Nova.
My boy Quincy.
And Mike Myers like had been listening to this. He knew the song his whole life, and like when he got this idea to make this movie, he like knew immediately that he was going to put this song like as the theme for it.
You're
And-
talking about the ba-da-da-da.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
is it? Oh, is it that?
Right, and it was actually a theme song for an old like TV show he used to watch too. So like that was a theme song for an
Wow.
old sitcom back in the day.
I thought that was like strictly made for Austin Powers.
No, yeah, it's a song that's been around since the 60s.
Wow.
Quincy Jones, check him out.
Shout out Quincy.
Austin Powers came out after Wayne's World, right? So Mike Myers is already an established
Okay.
comedian, actor in Hollywood, and he decided to not do a third Wayne's World film to focus on making Austin Powers.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think I've ever seen the second Wayne World.
They're both good, honestly.
That's
Yeah, I
fair
don't know.
enough.
I could use some Wayne and Garth in my life, always. Holy shit! So the guy who plays Random Task, the guy who throws the shoe,
Yeah.
is in reality serving a life term in prison for the torture of a young woman that he committed in 1990.
Did you throw a shoe at her?
I don't know if he threw a shoe at her, but listen to this, man. He went uncaptured apparently until 2008 when like a DNA match linked him to the crime.
Well, that's messed up, dude. That was definitely not a random task. That was premeditated.
Oh, and listen to this. So then in 2017, he was added like an additional 27 years to his sentence. So this man's in jail for life, thank goodness, because he murdered his cellmate in 2017.
Dude, this guy's like a real life henchman, dude.
For real.
He's a real life. Jeez, he never cut the role.
He took the role too seriously.
Just like Heath Ledger with Joker. Oh fuck! Just like Heath Ledger with Joker, he took the role too seriously.
Damn, dude.
That's so ridiculous.
I mean, he tortured a woman.
Ridiculous.
I'm laughing about it, but like, what the fuck?
I know it's not funny, but it's just kind of like
He didn't even say a word in the movie. He didn't have a fucking line.
No,
Dude,
this was just brewing in his mind during this.
Maybe
film.
that's why
this was brewing.
Maybe the woman he tortured was like Mike Myers' like ghostwriter, who like didn't give him a line. So Daniel Craig is the 6th actor to ever play James Bond in the James Bond franchise.
Yeah.
He is on the record saying that Austin Powers messed up the James Bond film franchise.
Dude, I say after like the 3rd or 4th one, the James Bond franchise was just getting repetitive.
Well, I want to know like what his context of that quote is. Like, was he mad when he was saying that, or was he like playing around with it? Like, what was like the meaning behind that? Was he being serious?
I don't get it. I mean, if he's being serious, he's a loser in my opinion, because he's made millions and millions of dollars playing James Bond. That industry makes more money, and there's other spoofs of James Bond out there. Like there's Smart,
Johnny English,
yeah, Rowan Atkinson, for Christ's sake.
yeah, right.
Johnny English, yeah.
There's all
Yeah,
kinds.
you could go. You could
Spy
just keep
Kids. Was it
Spies Like Us?
Well, there's one like where Frankie Muniz is doing some spy shit, right?
Oh yeah, Agent Cody Banks.
Agent Cody
Yeah.
Banks, like
Bryan,
that's a disgrace. Agent Cody Banks ruined James Bond, not fucking Austin Powers.
That does ruin James
Yeah,
Bond.
Brian, Spies Like Us, that's true. But I mean, that's just like a really goofy quote because
Agent
I feel
Cody
like
Banks.
if you like James Bond and you're watching a James Bond film, you're like, yeah, I'm ready for this. Like, I know this is James Bond. Like, I'm gonna believe. My suspension of belief is my belief is suspended because I know that this is totally fake, but I'm here because this is just a really cool universe. Like, I don't watch James Bond movies and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like Austin Powers. Like, Austin Powers made fun of this movie. Like, I can't take this seriously anymore. Like, no, that's never a thought that has come into my mind at all whatsoever, Daniel Craig.
He probably got all butthurt because I'm working to make another film with him, and he blamed Austin Powers.
Yeah, well, I think he's done being James Bond anyway. I think Idris Elba is going to be James Bond now. Yeah.
I don't know if that's like 100%, but there's been rumors
Like
about
rumors,
that for
yeah.
so long.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Okay.
Cool. Is that all on trivia?
That wraps it up. I'm ready to dig into the script.
All right, Brian, you ready?
I'm ready. I
Well,
got my pants off, and I'm ready.
You're not wearing any pants right now?
Nah, I'm joking.
All right, well, yeah, put some pants on, and then we'll talk about the script. Before we actually talk about the scenes of the script, let's just talk about Myers' writing style and how he adds specific notes so that the director, the special effects team, just basically everybody in like the post-production team can get like the kind of vibe that Myers was envisioning in his head.
So they can all be on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. So like in specific
Paving
scenes,
the way.
he'll say like this will be like a stock footage like image or video of like this specific like historical event or like when they're driving in the car, it'll be like this is obvious like stock footage just to add to like the comedic like goofiness of that scene.
And as an homage to old TV and movies that were are kind of the same basis, where it's like a secret agent, who's unbeatable.
Right. Yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah,
that's
I mean, he also references just like songs to be played at certain
specific
parts.
songs. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like Drew said, there's just things in there for the post production people, like helping them to visualize camera shots. Things
He
like
just
that.
did extra to make it easier for other people, I guess.
Yeah, and if that's what he wanted to put in there, but if as a whole they all didn't agree with his selection, then they would maybe pick something else that was equivalent to that, that sort of like vibe. I guess I could say.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to kind of go over the points in the movie that we all know, and then we're going to talk about the differences that are kind of found in the script, because the original script is good, but the final product in the movie is much better, so there was obviously revisions going on, but we're just going to kind of go into the differences. So, to summarize, in the movie, we know it starts in 1965, 1965, something like that, let's say.
Yeah, just in the 60s.
And Austin has this whole little montage of dancing and parading around London on the streets and getting chased by girls and stuff like that.
Right.
Then he talks to Basil Exposition with Mrs. Kensington, his partner, and they head to the Electric Psychedelic Pussycat Swingers Club because they've heard word from Basil Expedition that Dr. Evil is going to be there, right?
He set a trap, yes.
So, in the movie, they get to the club. There's just a bunch of dancing going on. It's real groovy in there, right? And Austin punches a woman in the face who turns out to be a man, right? Then Dr. Evil kind of appears, kills the henchman that was trying to assassinate Austin. Austin and Mrs. Kensington chase Dr. Evil down, and he blasts off in his big boy into outer space, frozen with his cat, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the gist of what happens in the movie. And then, as we know, Austin volunteers to freeze himself and is woken up later.
Yeah.
So in the screenplay, there's a few different things that go on.
Now, in the script, when Austin Powers and Mrs. Kensington show up to the Electric Psychedelic Pussycat Swingers Club, they get out of their Jaguar, and there happens to be a press conference going on, like on the sidewalk.
And who could be there at the press
It's
conference?
Mick Jagger. And Mick Jagger and Austin Powers apparently go way back. They're buddies. And
They're mates.
Mick Jagger just goes, "Hey, Austin, how you doing? Are you more satisfied now sexually?" And Austin goes, "Well, you can't always get what you want." And then Mick goes, "You can't always get what you want? That's a great title for a song. I'm going to write that, and it'll be a big hit." And then Austin's just like, "Yeah, good on you, man. Like, good luck." And then they just, like, cut to a full-screen vinyl 45 of this song, "You Can't Always Get What You Want," with, like, a Rolling Stones, like, album artwork cover. So now, Austin Powers is apparently responsible for the Rolling Stones song to be so popular. So then they go into the club, and Austin and Mrs. Kensington run into Andy Warhol. Now, this is in the movie as well. However, Andy does not have any lines. In the screenplay, Austin asks Andy Warhol, "Hey, how are you, man?" And Andy Warhol's like, "I'm hungry." So Austin gives him a can of Campbell's tomato soup.
He had a can of soup in his pocket.
Yeah, right?
Maybe it was on, like, his utility
And Andy
belt.
Warhol's like a starving bum.
So Andy Warhol's hungry, and then Austin gives him this can of soup, and he's just like, I'm not even hungry anymore. I'm going to paint this, and I'm going to get really rich. And then Austin's like, "Yeah, everyone can be famous. Everyone will have their own 15 minutes of fame." And Andy Warhol's like, 15 minutes of fame? I'm going to use that quote and not give you any credit for that either.
And Austin just goes, "Smashing!"
So Austin apparently, like, every couple minutes, he's just walking by, like, people and just giving them ideas for them to get famous. So, I mean, that was kind of goofy. What did you guys think about that scene?
It's like Forrest Gump stuff, but then they bring Forrest Gump, like, into this movie, kind of. Like, well, I'll go back to that. Like,
and he gets to, like, pee really bad at it.
In the movie Forrest Gump, they reference Forrest being parts of history, right? And, like, influencing people, which obviously didn't happen. That's the same case here. And what happens, they bring Forrest Gump into Austin Powers, and this is how they do it, right? So there's, like, apparently the Queen is in the club.
Yeah.
The Queen is in the
at
electric...
a swingers club.
She's in the swingers club, yeah. Who knows what she's wearing? I mean, but behind her are, like, these guards and, like, the Duke of Edinburgh. And the Queen says to Austin, "Britain owes you a debt of gratitude." And she asks, like, she hears he was wounded, and she says, "Well, where were you wounded?" And Austin says, like, just like Forrest Gump, he said, "I was wounded in the buttocks." And then the Queen wants to see it, so Austin turns around, drops his pants, and shows his wounded butt to the Queen, just like how Gump showed his butt to, was it JFK?
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Lyndon B. Johnson, right?
Lyndon B. Johnson,
in Forrest Gump. And then, like, the Queen walks away and laughs and says, "Nice buttocks." And then in this lineup, like, of people that are watching Austin, like, talk to the Queen, there's, like, a guy dressed as Forrest Gump, and he like, has to pee really bad. And he's just, like, in the background. And
why does he have to pee really bad?
I don't know, but that was just all in the script, but it did not make the movie, obviously, as we know.
I mean, I just want to know why he put that in there.
I thought all those interactions were funny. I mean, it's just like pop culture stuff, more things to make the movie relevant, I guess.
Yeah. True.
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I'll dock him a couple points for creativity just because we'd already seen something like that in Forrest Gump.
Right, but I'm gonna give him points for creativity because then right after he does this Forrest Gump thing, he just has Austin punch the girl in the face, and then it turns out to be a man.
Yeah,
and that part, at least in the movie, the execution with that is so funny because he punches the girl, and then they like cut back to Austin, then they cut back to the person that was punched, and it's just clearly not the same person anymore. It's just like a guy with like a 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah,
it's a man, baby.
Yeah, that part's pretty classic.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to bring up is just the fact that in the screenplay, like as we went through and read it, we noticed that Austin's dialogue to these other characters in the 1990s that he meets when he's unfrozen, his dialogue is really creepy because, as we said earlier, like Austin's a sex addict, you know, free love. He wants to mingle with everybody and anyone he can, and the 1990s society, you know, rejects that and they think it's wrong and evil in a way. So, just to go over a few scenes where that happens, we'll start with when Austin is undergoing his cryogenic unfreezing process.
Yes. Scientific.
Yeah, super scientific. I love the
He's
part.
being awoken. But they say they put him in the goo.
Liquid goo phase complete. Yeah, that part's great. And then the peeing scene, obviously, is like one of the most iconic parts of the movie when he can't stop peeing. But
step 3 complete.
Right.
Cut off. But
so,
as you're saying.
Yes. So once he's like awake, he has that whole scene where he's like strapped in, and they're introducing him to everyone around. And Vanessa, his new like partner, is like being introduced to him, and she tells him that a lot's changed since 1967. And what Austin responds is,
well, as long as people are still having promiscuous sex with many anonymous partners without protection, while at the same time experimenting with mind-expanding drugs in a consequence-free environment, I'll be sound as a pound.
So he's
him just saying that he will fit right in where he left off, and hopefully they're still saying anything.
30 years later, it just keeps
anything,
going.
Just for fun, basically.
Normal behavior.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what he was used to, so that's what he wakes up and expects. It's pretty funny. But it's creepy, though. Like, everyone around, like, Vanessa does not react well to that. She's creeped out.
No.
And she gets creeped out even further because later on in the screenplay, like, only 4 pages later, right? So he's unfrozen. He goes to the counter to get his belongings and has the whole penis pump scene, which is outrageously funny.
Yeah.
And then they get on his jumbo jet to kind of go to, I think they're going to Las Vegas, right? Because that's where Dr. Evil is.
Yeah.
And while on the plane, Austin just says some like really weird stuff.
Yeah, because in the movie he wants to, I mean, he's attracted to her, so he wants to shag her in his terminology, and she's like just repulsed from it. Not even if they were the last 2 people on Earth, she would not procreate with him if it depended on the rest of the human race.
Exactly. So Bryan, so they get on the plane, and they're on the plane, and he's like, "Oh, this jet's great, right?" So Vanessa, how did you end up working for the Ministry of Defense? And she goes on this long, boring tangent about how she studied languages at Oxford, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's fascinating. That's great. Hey, want to go in the back and shag?"
Yeah, he just transitions right in real quick. Just transitions.
And she's just like, "What?" And he's like, "I've been frozen for 30 years. I want to see if my bits and pieces are still working." And she's just like, "Excuse me." And he just keeps talking about his wedding tackle and his meat and his 2 veg, like just saying funny things about his dick and balls. But he then asks her if she's ever made love to a Chigro. And she's like, "A Chigro?" And he's like, a Chigro, part Chinese, part Negro. And then she starts telling him how we don't use the term Negro anymore. And then he starts saying you're supposed to say colored. Like, this whole thing is just, like, really, really creepy. And then he's like...
and racist.
And then he's saying... Like, racist, yeah. He's like, all right, well, Vanessa, forget it. Like, where are the sexy stewardesses? And then these, like, stewardesses enter the plane, or they're, like, on the plane, and they're dressed, in normal flight attendant wear. And one of them's a guy wearing braces or something. And he's like... Austin's just kind of like, what's going on, like, with these flight attendants? He asks one for her phone number, and she gives him, like, the movie phone... like 1-800 number, and he doesn't like get it.
She just swerved him, and was just like, nah, you're being way too creepy.
Yeah, and he
he also had an itinerary apparently for the flight attendants. So she pulls out like this itinerary, and she's like, I have a couple questions about this. It says here at 4:30 is dinner, 5:30 is everyone gets naked and covered with baby oil, 6 o'clock orgy ?
He just follows. Seems pretty straightforward, don't you think?
It's creepy. Like the character, like when you watch the movie, like you don't have those thoughts. You never think Austin Powers is like a creep.
Right.
But when I read this, it sounded creepy.
When you read it, it's creepy. Yeah, totally.
So Mike Myers and whoever else helped them like refine the script before they made the movie, like they definitely like had to realize that and like go through and be like, no, like we need to make him goofy, not creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they succeeded with that.
No, they did. Yeah, I've never got any like weird. Other than him just being a straight sex addict, you can clearly get that. But the creepiness definitely dwindled in the refined.
Right, and his morals get better in the movie and the screenplay as well, because later on, he has that scene like where Vanessa's drunk and she wants to kiss him, but he won't do it because he's like, no, you're drunk.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That kind of reminded me of Superbad a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're drunk.
Michael Cera's character.
Yeah.
Michael Cera.
Okay, so let's regroup, and we're going to be skipping forward in the plot of Austin Powers, right? So at this point in the movie, we're talking about the movie right now. They, as in Austin Powers and Vanessa, realize from Basil that Dr. Evil is running a corporation called VirtueCon, and Vanessa and Austin plan to infiltrate it while dressing up like tourists, right? And they're dressed up in these ridiculous outfits, and then Austin and Vanessa get these like lab coats by knocking out these other characters that are like much different body figures than them. It's pretty funny, like because their clothes wouldn't fit them, but they do magically. And then they kind of like they open these security doors and are caught immediately. This tour guide sees that they're there and he calls like security. And then they end up in this like room full of steamrollers. They run over that one guy in hilarious fashion. And after they leave that like warehouse type area, they're knocked out by random task and then taken to another location, which is like the underground Dr. Evil lair out in the middle of the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, in the screenplay, at the point when they are going to this factory to get reconnaissance on Dr. Evil's evil corporation, right, in their disguises, there's some differences that take place.
So Austin and Vanessa are in their disguises. They walk in, and Vanessa's like, these disguises are not going to work. Like, our photo badges do not match who we are. And Austin's like, don't worry about it. I picked up a mind control technique during my travels to India. I learned it from my guru, late Guru Shastri, a chaste man who mysteriously died of a disease that had all the hallmarks of syphilis. Like, it's just like, okay.
Was this a foreshadow to the last Guru movie that he released after?
Yeah, the Love Guru. The Love Guru.
Oh, God.
The Love Guru.
He's just had this idea of gurus in his mind for a long time.
That doesn't deserve to be talked about.
I mean, in the movie, too, during the scene, Mike Myers, his, like, disguise, Austin Powers' disguise, is a guru. That's what he's dressed up as. Like, it looks like the Love Guru character, kind of.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's true.
All about this Love Guru.
Right.
It's not good.
So Austin goes ahead, and so they're approached by a guard, and Austin goes ahead and showcases his, like, hypnotic skills that he's acquired from India. Mm-hmm. And and earlier, for whatever reason, I can't remember, Austin wanted a piece of gum. So Austin's like telling this guard, like, everything's in order, you're going to let us go by. And the guard repeats, like, okay, everything's in order.
He's buying it, yeah.
I'm going to let you go by.
It's working.
And then as they're about to go by, Austin's like, and you will give me a piece of gum. And, like, the guard, like, pulls it out, and then, like, this kind of breaks his, like, hypnotic state. And he's like, but wait, like, this is my last piece of gum. I don't want to give it to you. And Austin's like, oh, shit, like, it's wearing off. So he's just like, no. Like, no. Like, he's telling the guard, like, no, like, I want you to have it, even though it's my last piece. So then the guard responds and says that exact line and gives him his last piece. I don't know. I thought that was kind of goofy, just like the gum, but...
Yeah. It's just the interaction. They, like, draw it out, this, like, he's, like, in and out of hypnotism.
Because he goes, I'm going across the street to get you some sherbet. And then Vanessa, like, come on.
Yeah, that was, like, the last thing he wanted the guard to get done.
Austin just couldn't help himself. Like, right when he hypnotized really the guy to let them by, he's like, like, give me your gum. Like, you know, I could go for some sherbet. That was, like, real cartoonish to me, but it fit the movie. Like, it would have worked if they did it.
Yeah, it was really goofy.
But, yeah, it made sense why they cut it, I guess. Just because it was, like, maybe just too goofy, too, like, out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Too much of, like, a random, like, plug that he drops this, like, knowledge of an Indian guru. Who knows?
And the next difference in the script is we're going to fast forward, like, a couple minutes into the film here. This is when Vanessa and Austin are in like this big, humongous like warehouse room, and they're on a steamroller, and that's when the security guard is like screaming like no, like refusing to get out of the way, and they roll him over
like a deer in headlights. He was frozen.
It's so funny. Yeah. You totally just like step to the right and you'd be alive.
Yeah.
He could have ran around. He could have ran laps around the room before that steamroller would have hit him.
So they run him over, and then after they run him over, that's when they get knocked out by random task, and then immediately after that scene, we go back to the steamroller room, and there's like several workmen like sweeping up the blood and the guts like from this accident, and on the back of like their like jackets it says Steamroller Accident Response Team. So like this is like
it's
something
happened many
common.
times.
Yeah, this is like a common thing that goes on.
It's like a daily job. Like these people are there every day, and their only job is to clean up steamroller accidents.
And one of the workmen notices like the guy's name. The squished guy's like name tag is still intact. And so then we cut to like just like a suburban like house, and it's like a family, like a mom and like a kid, and this is like the henchman's like family, and like they're calling the family to let them know that their son has just been killed. But the way they structure this, so the middle-aged lady that the henchman's mother answers her phone is like, "Hello?" She's like, "Yes, this is Mrs. Harwin. Yes, I have a son named Steve Harwin. Yes, that's right. He's a henchman in Dr. Evil's private army." What? He was killed? How? He was run over by a steamroller? Oh my God! Thank you for calling.
Yeah, it's just like
she's just like not like she's like, oh, okay. And then sits down with her other son.
And then like Billy like is supposed to. There's this little kid Billy that's supposed to be like the younger brother of the guy that was killed by the steamroller. He's like, but he was going to teach me how to play catch. Yeah. And the mom's just like, I'm sorry, son. People never think of how things affect the family of henchmen.
And I like that one because I was just self-aware of the parody.
It was awesome.
There.
It reminded me of
it's
like
so true. Like, if you think about any other movie that has henchmen in there, you get killed off like flies.
They have families.
Like, if you really wanted to think down that they have families.
I wish this was in the script. I mean, or not the script. I mean the film. That would have been cool.
It reminds me of like Saving Private Ryan. That scene when they like have to go to the mom's house and like tell her or call, like give her the letters.
Yeah.
And it's so sad, but this is just like hilarious. But even though like they're telling someone that their son is dead, and it's hilarious.
And while we're talking about the henchmen getting killed, because I vaguely remember, actually no, not even vaguely remember, I'm like fairly certain that this second instance of where a henchman, that Austin kills a henchman, and then we cut to like his like friends or family.
It's the guy that he like puts his head in the tank with sea bass with laser beams attached to their heads.
Right.
He like pulls them out of the water in the movie, and his head's like gone.
And that's when he's like making all the jokes like he wasn't very headstrong and like all this stuff.
He'll never be the head of a top corporation.
But like once Vanessa and Austin leave, like we cut to like a sports bar, and it's supposed to be like this henchman's like bachelor party, and
all his boys are there.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of guys, and they're all like drinking beer and stuff. And then like a waitress comes over with a phone and is like, "Yeah, is this like the party for John Smith?" Like he has like a really just boring name. Mm-hmm. And they're like, he's like, "Yeah," and he gets on the phone. Like one of the friends gets on the phone, and they learn that he was killed by sea bass, and they're like, all this stuff. And so at the end, like they're just kind of like somber, and then they just raise their glasses like to Smitty. So I feel like,
and then it just cuts.
I'm pretty sure I saw this in the movie. Like I'm not delusional. I think I like remember this. I remember this scene. It had to be in like an extended version.
Yeah, like director's cut, just an extra scene they filmed that didn't make the movie, but was out there.
We had that Blu-ray. We had that Blu-ray edition.
Nah.
No way.
No, we have VHS, I think, for this movie.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, so let's regroup and just get on the same page for the movie. All right, so Austin and Vanessa escape from Dr. Evil's like lame plan to lower them into sea bass with laser beams attached to their heads. And now Austin has like had that scene where he like met the fembots and destroyed them. Vanessa brings back a whole army of men to fight Dr. Evil in their lair to save the world. And we all kind of know what happens, and Austin saves the world, right? But there are some differences just with the plot points in the screenplay, and we're just going to mention a few of them right now. So once the fighting starts in this big like atrium, I guess, part where they have the big drill where Dr. Evil is trying to drill into the core of the earth, right? There's the big fight scene going on, and while it's going on, there's this kind of funny scene that's in the script that did not make the movie where Austin and Vanessa are on like this higher level of the room, and they need to get down to like the main floor, and they're like just gonna jump over a railing, but it's like a ridiculous fall. So Vanessa is like really like reluctant to like jump over, and Austin like is like, no, it's fine, Vanessa, trust me. And then these two stuntmen just kind of appear like in the scene and jump over for them, like really obviously showing you that they're stuntmen. And then Austin and Vanessa, like, you know, Mike Myers and what's her name, Elizabeth Hurley, are just like standing there at the bottom, like back in action, like. And it's just supposed to look really bad, but like it probably would have been funny if they did it in the movie, I thought.
Yeah, just more of the parody. I would have liked that too. It's all good though. Right.
And then after that, there's the scene where Mike Myers, Austin Powers, is chasing Dr. Evil, and in the script there's like this robot computer thing that Dr. Evil has.
Destructicon
5000, the Destructicon 5000. And
yeah, it was weird.
And Austin just has like a brief exchange of dialogue, and then like the Destructicon says that it can answer any question or something. Yeah. So Austin asks it, "What is love?" And the thing just explodes.
Yeah, it was really weird. I didn't really understand that. I'm glad they got rid of that because it was super random.
Yeah, it's just random.
It was weird. Yeah.
It just kind of messed up the continuity of that. And then the next villain we get to face here is Random Task. As you know in the film, we see him in the hotel room while Vanessa and Austin are on their honeymoon. Well, in the screenplay, he kind of just like comes out of nowhere.
Right before Austin is about to like hit the button to abort the drill. This is right before that happens.
Yeah, and then Random Task throws his shoe at Austin, and that's when Austin's like, you know, who throws a shoe? You fight like a woman type thing. And Random Task just happens to be standing on like a bunch of exposed cables, and next to Austin is a big gulp. And Austin,
44 ounces.
Yeah, and Austin just picks it up and just throws it at the cables, and Random Task is just like burned to a crisp, and then Austin just looks at him and it's just like, shocking. Like, so that kind of reminded me a little bit of like Eight-Legged Freaks type dialogue.
Yeah, just a really bad one-liner after a good kill.
Right.
Classic.
There's another funny like one-liner here too, because like right after Austin electrocutes and kills Random Task, Vanessa has this exchange with a lot of vagina, because Vanessa's like jealous that Austin had this sexual interaction with a lot of vagina. So like we find out in this dialogue that's exchanged that a lot of vagina didn't sleep with Austin because she thought his teeth were too ugly.
Yeah.
But Vanessa just like doesn't care and just tells her, "You must be chopped," and then like judo chops her and like knocks her out. Yeah. You must be chopped.
That was like the go-to fight move.
And then also the scene we're talking about, guys, is when this is when Austin like is chasing Dr. Evil and find like Dr. Evil's trying to get away. That's when Austin like takes Scott Evil, Seth Green's character, hostage, and Dr. Evil's just like, "Oh, I don't care, kill the little bastard." But so in the film, what happens is so like number 2 comes in and like doesn't agree with Dr. Evil's plan anymore, so he kind of takes sides with Austin Powers. And whereas in the screenplay, like while the place is about to blow up, like number 2 is just like looting like a vault or something.
He's just stuffing his pockets and his like backpack with money as much as he can.
He just disappears.
I also thought it was funny in the screenplay when Seth Green, when you were saying, he was like, "Fine, go ahead and kill him." Seth Green is just like, "I wish I was never born and raised in a science lab."
Yeah.
And then Doc was like, "Oh, come on, don't say that."
Come on, Scott, don't say that. That hurts my feelings.
Just let him die.
So, as we all know, Dr. Evil gets away, flies away in his big boy, but the whole layer that this whole like final scene takes place at is going to self-destruct. So Vanessa and Austin have to escape, which they do. The place blows up. There's this amazing stock footage, like nuclear bomb explosion go on.
Right.
And then the movie kind of wraps up there. Vanessa and Austin get married, and they're on their honeymoon. And then in the movie, this is when Random Task throws the shoe at Austin. Austin, what is it? He like knocks him out with a penis pump.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. He does that, and then Vanessa like smashes him in the head.
Right? Yeah, he gets the penis pump on him, and then Vanessa takes a wine bottle to his head, and they just like throw him out of his room.
Yeah, they said throw him down the hallway.
They throw him down the hallway on like a push cart.
Yeah,
pretty classic.
Oh yeah.
And then the movie's basically over. In the screenplay, there are a few things that are different.
Yeah, so like while they're escaping, so in the film, right, they jump into the Jaguar that's conveniently placed to get away. And then in the screenplay, I did not understand this at all. Did you guys? Because
it made no sense.
Somehow, like, so Dr. Evil's lair, like, takes place in the desert, right?
In Nevada.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, they get out of the lair, and then they just end up, like, in the ocean on a raft. It was really weird, like, how they got there.
It made no sense.
Yeah, and then they're like about to share like a kiss, and then they're like instantly interrupted by
Basil Exposition,
who comes down on a helicopter in like a scuba suit.
He's in full scuba gear on a helicopter. He's not even getting wet.
Yeah, it really didn't make any sense. So I'm glad they changed that ending.
Yeah, well, just to, like in this ending in the screenplay too, when Basil shows up on the helicopter, like when they're on this raft, I just thought this was funny. I just want to put it out there. He gives, like, Vanessa her field agent credentials, which happens in the movie when they're on their honeymoon, like, at this hotel.
Yeah.
So in the screenplay, he gives her these credentials on the raft, and then he looks at Austin and just gives him a dentist's business card.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
He's like, yeah, here's my dentist. Like, you might need to make an appointment.
They brought that full circle.
And then they end the movie there. But then there's actually a few extra pages in the screenplay that describe, like, an after credits roll scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like season 2 of like Danger 5. If you guys have ever seen Danger 5,
or like
little plug,
the ending to 22 Jump Street, where they like go into like 23 Jump Street, 24 Jump Street. Like basically, what happens is Mike Myers he like describes scenes just showing like the Austin Powers film franchise, like as if it were something that was as big as James Bond.
And then what they actually do is they have Roger Moore play as Austin Powers. So if you know Roger Moore, he was in James Bond. I think he was after Sean Connery. Yeah,
he did it for a substantial amount of time, and he's like regarded.
I think
as like he's regarded as someone who played the role really well.
Yeah. So what they do, they go into the credits, and it's like they do like these like James Bond title, like kind of like they like resemble James Bond titles. So for example, it's like see Austin Powers, and you only floss once. And then it's like, get the Powers collection with 5 laser discs alongside a PK-47, which is a pistol, Austin's glasses, and floss and a toothbrush. So like, this is like the collector's edition that you get.
Yeah.
Was that in there too?
No penis pump.
And then it's kind of just like a little like ending commercial where like I said, they had Roger Moore. Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of the whole credits part. That was really stupid in my opinion.
It was weird. I mean, it just didn't really fit.
Yeah. So what were you guys' general thoughts as we wrap up here?
Well, after reading the script of Austin Powers and Man of Mystery, I think that's it. I don't know if I botched that at all, but like it was comparable. It was the script and the movie itself. They related pretty well, other than the subtle changes. But I found myself laughing throughout the reading.
Yeah.
And just keeping that Michael Myers kind of, he made a good spoof off of the 007 movies.
Yeah, totally.
And I enjoyed it. Like I always enjoy these. It's a good time.
Heck yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it too. Reading this helps me really appreciate the Austin Powers character more, especially like learning how he developed the character as we went through like the trivia earlier. I thought that was awesome.
Very true.
Something I just want to mention lastly too. So the parts where in the film they're hiding Austin and Vanessa's like private parts and genitals with objects, it is in the screenplay, but they only mention it really briefly. So as they were like producing this film, they probably thought, okay, that's hilarious, we need to add more of it, and then they did. And I'm glad they did because it's really funny. And then it's kind of hilarious how that idea like expands into the other films because they kind of get funnier. Like as you move on.
Evolve. Yeah, like I love how it's just been a staple that they carried on throughout the remainder of them. And for me, I do like this script. I agree with both of you guys with some points that you made. I think that this will definitely be a script that I refer to when, trying to work on some, comedic elements in a script and how to structure a scene in a comedy. No matter what platform you're using to listen to us, I just want it to be known that we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you like our content, please be sure to follow all of our channels so you can stay in the loop with new episodes. Also, feel free to give us a rating and leave us comments, or send us an email at screenplayjunkie.show@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. On the next episode, we're going to be shaking some things up a little bit. We're not going to be looking at a screenplay. We're going to be looking at a short story and comparing it to its film version. And that short story is Children of the Corn by Stephen King. We hope you can join us.